What's up, hockey fans and hockey fanatics out there? Welcome to episode 8 of the Hockey Lounge. I am your host, Nick. It is Wednesday, June 16th, 2021. And if you want to become a lounge member, hit that subscribe button below or follow us on Instagram, the Hockey Lounge. Remember, if you love the podcast tonight, hit that like button. If you have any comments or questions for our guest tonight, fire away. He was inducted to the Milton Sports Hall of Fame in 2018, inducted to the AHL Hall of Fame in 2020. He is Milton's own Darren Haydar. Darren, welcome to the lounge tonight.
Thanks for having me on, Nick. Looking forward to it.
You like that intro? We're normally talking in the dressing room, talking about shots and all that stuff, right?
Absolutely. Different environment, but much of the same.
Yeah, awesome. So last week we had Michael Cramarosa on, and he played AAA hockey through his minor career, and he had a couple options, and he took the OHL route. And many of the conversations you and I have had over the number of years here is what route is the right route, and I don't think there is one route that is the right route, but everybody goes their certain ways when it comes to decisions. So your journey from 2002 to 2016, pro career, playing AHL, NHL overseas. But the big decision for you, Darren, was back when you were playing junior before the junior, the Merchants. Tell the viewers just a little bit of how that went down and your decisions and what made your decision to go the NCAA route.
Well, absolutely. I think even if I look before junior, I had a couple friends and they went to the prep school route. So if you want to take it one step further, there's, even at that age, you're looking what differences or what other options are out there, what can propel you to either the NCAA. For me, my decision was a lot to do with my size, and I was smaller. I knew I needed, even as a young player, I knew I needed that extra year or two of development and to be able to do that. Having said that, I did skate with the Barrie Colts on the 3-on-3 rink, and Bert Templeton was the coach. And when I say I had a small look there, they couldn't guarantee me anything. And to be honest with you, I don't even think that was my, like we've talked before, and like you just mentioned, there's different paths and different, routes for everyone to get there. And for me, to be honest with you, at that age, I wasn't even thinking pro hockey was even an option. I think for myself, I wanted an education, and was it going to be golf or hockey? I think was at that point was where I was looking. So for me, I had the option of a couple different prep schools. Playing Milton Merchants was, I grew up watching the Milton Merchants. So for me, that was, a dream. And then it led into the year before I committed to the University of New Hampshire. We had a guy by the name of Matt Van Arkel living with us, and he was scouted. We received phone calls from every D1 school, and not that I was jealous, but as I didn't really understand at the time. I was too young for them to even talk to me. So I heard him get every single top end coach called our house at some point in time. So I just had to wait my time, and I'm thankful, and I loved the decision that I made with my family to go to the University of New Hampshire and the NCAA. It was definitely the right route for me. And like you said, and we've talked before, going to the OHL or going to the Canadian majors, it's some people like to go that way. For me, the right route was going to the NCAA.
So making that decision, you were playing for the Milton Merchants. You were lighting it up, of course, right? We all know that. But before you joined them, and the conversations you probably had with your parents in terms of, and then like you said, you went to the Barrie Colts 3-on-3 or whatnot. You're probably getting more looks from the OHL. What, in terms of the decision that involved with your parents, what made you go the route of NCAA? What was the final, like you mentioned your size, of course, right? You said, but besides that, were you looking at schooling as, definitely something to fall back on? Because a lot of parents think when they get drafted to the O, it's like a free pass to the NHL per se, right?
Yeah, which is obviously not true. And, some kids are, they learn the hard way. So for me at that age, I think that education was everything. It was almost, let's look at it this way. If you're getting a scholarship, you're essentially getting paid. You're getting a $30,000 education per year for 4 years. That's 120 grand over 4 years that, are you going to have to pay for school if you go the other route? I'm not saying that that's the case, but you can still look at it as you're getting your education and getting, just going that way in life. And if you don't know if professional hockey is going to be there, for me, that's one of the things that I was looking at. I didn't even know if I don't even think I thought of professional hockey. Even after I was drafted, I don't know if I was just young and dumb, but I didn't even really think that, you're young, you don't really know. And I don't think it really hit me until it was my senior year and I was up for the Hobey Baker. And then all of a sudden, okay, I was drafted by Nashville after my freshman year. In the 9th round, which they don't even have anymore.
Yeah, I was discussing that tonight with my boys in terms of the round or whatnot, right? So sorry to cut you off there. So in terms of you played for the Merchants. So how old were you when you were playing there, Darren?
I think I played a couple games when I was 17.
Okay.
And then I believe 18 and 19. Those were my 2 years that I played for Milton. So then, and you know what? I think it was a little bit different back then. I don't think you had as many young guys playing, even tier 2 at that point in time. I remember we had a few guys that were, they were 20, and one of them, when we went to the Royal Bank Cup, he either had to choose to play in the Royal Bank Cup and redshirt a season in NCAA, or vice versa, play the Royal Bank Cup and then sit out, or sit out and then, not redshirt 1 year. He chose to sit out and not redshirt. He was a great defenseman for our team. So obviously we missed him, but those are the decisions. And
so you packed your bags at what age to go to UNH? How old were you?
I think I was 20.
You were 20.
I think I was 20.
So definitely different, leaving home at 16 to, let's say, go to Kingston, Saginaw, Sault Ste. Marie. You stayed back a little bit, played some junior, then made your way to UNH at 20. And we've talked about your experience there. Can't say enough better things every time I talk to you about that experience. So what's the comparison in terms of the NCAA schedule for a hockey player compared to, we know the grind of the O, so it's a little different in the NCAA. And you had mentioned that to me many times over the years. So what's the big difference when you're playing college or university college hockey?
Well, I think the big thing is the amount of development you can get on your body and growth and in the time spent in the gym. In the NCAA, it has to be much greater. You only play 40-something games, and you prepare for those 2 games a week, and it's almost like NFL football. Like, the games are all meaningful. The games are all everyone is full of energy. The buildings. I wouldn't trade that experience for anything, and that's my personal opinion. I just love that. You go to your university, or it doesn't matter which one, and everybody bleeds that color, or bleeds that, that whether you're alumni or not, you're pulling for that school. And just to be a part of that environment at that age was something special. And I think, leaving, I think I might have had a little bit, we billeted families when I played for the Merchants.
Okay.
And I saw guys come in at, a young age, and I don't want to say struggle, but it was a difference, some of them from the US, one of them from Latvia, coming in, living with our family, and, not speaking the language, and later played with him and won a Calder Cup with him in Milwaukee. But, just the differences. And then being 20, going away to school, living on your own, and, cooking your own meals and taking care of yourself. So definitely a few differences.
Yeah, for sure. So NCAA, you mentioned that you were up for the running for the Hobie Baker Award. I didn't know that, so that's something that I just learned tonight, which is pretty great. So you played how many years before the draft there? Before you went to the Nashville Predators in the draft, how many years did you play NCAA?
I was drafted after my freshman year.
Okay.
To Nashville. So back then, Nashville definitely took their time with anybody that wasn't a first rounder for the most part. So for me, being smaller, they already had 2 or 3 guys that were under 6 foot on their team. They made that quite evident that in a time where if a team had 1 guy under 6 foot, it wasn't normal, and they had 3 guys on their roster. So I knew I had an uphill climb right from the start.
So you get drafted to Nashville, and I've heard the many stories when you walk into that room for the first time in training camp, and you see some of the superstars that are on that team and the veterans or whatnot, and you're coming into a situation as a rookie, first time training camp. So how was that? How was that first time walking in that room, and you're actually in an NHL training camp?
For me, it was quite exciting, and I guess I was older, right? I wasn't 19, 20. I was 21, 22, and just to be able to play pro hockey, I didn't sign until, not that I was holding out, but I was kind of holding out at the start because we didn't agree on much between between my party and Nashville. Having said that, once I was there, I don't know if I was just 21, 22. I had full confidence in myself. I felt like I belonged. I felt like I didn't get an opportunity, but I don't think that Nashville even thought that I would come in and do what I did. Even in that training camp, I remember being at when I turned pro was Radulov and Scotty Upshaw and myself. We played the rookie camp together. We played against Columbus, and we had a couple really good games. And I think that maybe gave me a little bit more moving forward into the main camp. Having said that, I didn't get to do too much in main camp. I didn't even get it to play in the scrimmage. So for me, that was also another, what I see as a kick in the, what. For me, I felt like I could go in and compete for a spot, and I didn't get that opportunity. So I went down to Milwaukee, and I was told I didn't even have a place on that team. So I had to fight for my spot there. That they saw me ending up in Toledo in the East Coast League. Well, fortunate for me, we had a few injuries that allowed me to start that season with Milwaukee.
Wow. So your departure might have been to the East Coast Hockey League, but due to injuries, you got your shot, basically.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Yep. So just a question, though, in terms of the NCAA route, if you were, let's say, not, if you didn't sign with Nashville or whatnot, would you be able to go back to play NCAA? Was that an option as well, or you're done at that time?
So when I signed, it was after my senior year. Okay. And so I moved to pro, and I obviously that's once I signed, I was playing pro. It's just a matter of whether it was going to be in Toledo or Milwaukee. And from there, if you're way back when and still today, if you go NCAA, one of the downfalls, if you are drafted, that team owns your rights. And I think now they own your rights till you're 27. So you don't have much leverage in terms of leaving that, or leaving unless you go to Europe and do all of that. Yeah. If you go to Europe, they still own your rights until 27. So you have to request a trade. So there's some of those intricacies that are behind the scenes that maybe I was hoping I wasn't drafted by Nashville at that time. So just to get a better opportunity, a better look somewhere else.
So did you go through all the interviews or whatnot with these particular teams, the NHL teams? Did you have conversations with the scouts, with the GM? If you did, how was that?
So before I was drafted, I didn't talk to Nashville. I spoke to a couple other teams, San Jose and New Jersey. I met them in Toronto, and they wanted me to do a workout, but we were going on a family trip. Looking back on it, maybe that wasn't. I went on the family trip. So, looking back on it, I wasn't expecting it though. To be honest with you, when I say to be drafted, even after my freshman year, I was rookie of the year in Hockey East and did get some. When I say some recognition, I got some recognition, but to be honest with you, even at that, I pro wasn't really. I was living the moment. I was where I was. I was not thinking 3 years ahead. I was not thinking anything but going back and playing for the UNH Wildcats.
Yeah. So you go to Milwaukee, you get your opportunity, a few injuries or whatnot. That was your rookie year. How did that go? Were there any call-ups? Did you get called up to the big team? Your first year.
So I'll take you through my first game.
Yeah.
Back then we only dressed 11 forwards. You didn't dress 4 lines. You only dressed 11. So there was myself and a guy by the name of Mitch Fritz, who was 6'7", and his one hand could fit directly all over my, could cover my head. So we were line mates. So I knew that we most likely wouldn't get too many shifts together, but he would have his role and I would have mine. Mm-hmm. When I say fortunate for myself, there was 2 or 3 injuries early in that game. And I think I ended up turning some heads in that game and got a few points in that game. And I believe we won. So I think that gave me having that quick of a start gave me a little bit of a boost in the coach's eyes. And I moved up the charts pretty quick. And then in terms of getting my first call-up was in November of that year. So I went from being, not even, I don't even want to say on the depth chart to getting a call-up in November. So that happened all pretty quick. So when you think of that, that's 2 months.
For sure. It's East Coast Hockey League. It's injuries, you're in the lineup, and then you're getting called up in November in a month's like 2 month span.
Exactly. And you know what? I look at it in a way and I didn't have that much time to think about it. So if I look back on it now, it's, some guys, they don't like sitting there thinking about it. I watch baseball and Riley Adams interview the other day, he got called up, I believe in the morning. He was already at the alternate site. So he didn't have far to go. And then he played that night. Well, for me, it was a little bit longer term than that, but that's kind of how it happened. I didn't really having said that, my first game was we played 4 games in 5 nights in Milwaukee. And then the next night I played for Nashville against the Blackhawks. So that, playing 5 games in 6 nights was quite a bit.
So, yeah, for sure. Your legs are probably a little bit,
I was running on adrenaline.
Yeah, bent out of shape. And I was just going to say adrenaline's pumping through those legs for sure. So was the game in Nashville or Chicago your first game?
It was in Chicago. I'll be honest. We were on the bus.
Chicago Stadium?
No, it was at the United Center.
Okay. All right.
So we were on our way home from Grand Rapids after and we were having a couple cold ones because we figured, 4 games in 5 nights. We played, I believe we played Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then it was, I want to say it was Martin Luther King Day, and we played an afternoon game. And, so it all happened quick. They dropped off myself and 1 or 2 others at the hotel at about 2 a.m. on the way home from Grand Rapids back to Milwaukee. And the next morning I had to go get a suit. I didn't even bring a suit or my passport because I didn't even think that getting called up was even an option.
Right. So who tells you you're getting called up? Is it the GM, the coach? Who says, Haydar, you're going to the big leagues?
The coach. He actually came back about 15 minutes before and called up, one of my buddies, Greg Klassen, and he went back to the front of the bus and a little bit later on turned around and was like, Haydar, get your stuff together because we're dropping you off too. So it was, I remember it, and it was obviously that's the call you dream of. And for myself, getting that to get to share that moment with a buddy of mine that I was playing with in Milwaukee was pretty special.
So you get the call, you get dropped off. Okay, you're at the United Center, Hawks, Nashville, and now this is the big leagues. Of course, you walk into the room, and your jersey's hanging there. Of course, right? I'm not sure what number you wore for your first game, but
54.
54. Okay. Yeah,
Nothing screams call up more than 54.
Exactly. They probably the call-ups had to wear in the 50s, I would assume, because normally that's how it works.
Or 60s or 70s.
Or 60s or 70s, yeah. So, but anyways, 54 is hanging in the jersey with your name on the back of it. How did you feel going into that room? First NHL game.
Other than being tired from just the games before, I was running on adrenaline. I don't think I slept very much the night before. It's special. That's what all kids dream of. You're hoping for that call up. You're hoping for that. And for me, my path there, I was always told I was too small. So, I use that as a little bit of I don't want to say a chip on my shoulder, but I use it as inspiration.
So going back to size, and again, like you said, people were doubting you because of your size, not your skill, of course. But so for the viewers out there watching, and then of course in the next few days watching, what would you say to a minor hockey player that the odds are against them? Maybe size, speed, shot. Because again, you've given me tons of advice over the last 6 years on my boys, and it's appreciated, and that advice has gone a long way with both of them. But there are parents out there that worry about those things and the intangibles per se, right?
Absolutely. Never give up. Never give up. In minor hockey, there's plenty of examples of guys that didn't even make AAA, and they're playing AA or they're playing single A. Everybody's path is different. It comes back to that. Everyone's path is different. You never know when you're going to develop. You never know when you're going to when you're going to get an opportunity. So work for it. Always be ready for that opportunity, because you never know when it's going to come. Just make sure that your body and your mind is in the right spot when that time comes.
So talking about body and mind, and again, conversations we've had, you being smaller in frame as a hockey player, the extra work you had to put in for strength to keep up with the big guys, let's say, because when you played, it was a big boy league at that time.
Absolutely.
I remember it was a couple years ago, Darren. I think there was a great article about you in the Toronto Sun. And, one of the things I remember when Hockey Day in Canada was here in Milton, and I was watching Hockey Night in Canada the night before, and Don Cherry and Ron MacLean were discussing Hockey Day the next day. Ron MacLean was quoted as calling you the Wayne Gretzky of the AHL, which is a quite a compliment to be called that. That's pretty phenomenal, right?
Absolutely. And that's something I don't take, when I say I took pride in, preparing myself in off seasons, during season. Mm-hmm. Again, I was smaller, and especially during a time when if you were small, if you were Theo, if you were Fleury, if you were Marty St. Louis, mm-hmm. even Gretzky back then, you had to have one of those intangibles that was far superior to anybody else that was. Let's be honest. If you're gonna pick between a 6'2" guy and a 5'9", 5'10" guy, most GMs and coaches are going to select that 6'2" player. Now, what are you going to bring as that 5'9" player to the table that's going to separate you from that bigger player? That's the way I always tried to approach it. How can I make myself better or more appealing to a coach on any given night?
Right, and you said multiple times that preparing yourself, like you said, mentally and in as well as body in the off season is very important for a hockey player. And I think we've also had conversations too, Darren, about once you were in Milwaukee, then Nashville, you got that one game, and then the remainder of the season. How many games did you play for Nashville?
I got, I think I got one or two more. I did, the second game, I remember I didn't play in the third period, and then we went to overtime, and I got a shift in overtime. So again, you always got to stay ready. You always got to stay ready. So that year, I got one or two or so more games. And then at the end of that year in the AHL, I was named Rookie of the Year. So I wanted to build on that come the following year.
So you were named Rookie of the Year. Okay, so you're, Hobey Baker. Were you a finalist? You were in the running, maybe?
It was the first year they went down to the final three.
Okay, so then you win Rookie of the Year in the AHL. What else do you have to do to get noticed by Nashville here? So how many years were you in that organization?
4 or 5. And then I think, the second year in Milwaukee started a little bit slow. I had a new coach, and I understand what he was doing to me now, but I didn't appreciate it at the time. It was, you're basically at the end of the year, we get along now, and we got along during that season as well. But he's like, you were the Rookie of the Year last year. What was to stop you from getting yourself further ahead that following season? So he made it hard on me the first 2 months of that season. And come playoff time, I don't want to say I was his favorite player, because we had, a lot of good players that year, but we ended up winning the Calder Cup my second year. And when I look back at him, I don't want to say I give a lot of credit to him, because I was frustrated at the time, but he put me mentally in a place where I was mentally strong enough to be able to battle through that come end of season and playoff time. And I had a pretty good playoffs that year, and we won the Calder Cup. So I can only take the positives out of that. That's for sure.
So Calder Cup, your second year. So things are really they're really taking off in terms of some trophies. Like your trophy case is getting larger and larger here. Right? So you must think this is going to be it has to be going through your head. Things are going well for you, right?
Absolutely. And I don't want to sound cocky or arrogant, but it's almost when you look back, and it's almost like it went too easy too quickly. Mm-hmm. Having said that, the following year was the lockout.
Okay.
And after speaking with Nashville, they said maybe they misevaluated me into what I could bring to the table from an opportunity with them. But that lockout year, most likely, I would have been given a heck of a lot more of an opportunity in Nashville, but there wasn't a season. And in Milwaukee, we had a really good team once again. We had Shea Weber, Dan Hamhuis. That year, I don't think we had Pekka Rinne yet, but we had a really good team. We had Scotty Upshall, Jordan Tutu. Our team was really good. And I broke my ankle with about 25 games to go in the season, 20 games to go in the season. And by the time playoffs came around, I think I forced it back a little bit early, but had when I say I had a decent playoffs, I had a better playoffs than I did regular season. And, it's just too bad that year there was a lockout. Otherwise I would have been given, from what they've told me, a little bit more of a look, at least at training camp and into that season. I would have been one of their, call ups. So, that was too bad.
Yeah.
And then my fourth year with Milwaukee, we made it all the way back to the Calder Cup finals. I had a really good year. We had a really good team. Our second line was Scotty Upshall, Rich Peverly, and Jordan Tutu. And we also, we had a really good team that year. So
you signed with Nashville. How long was the contract, Darren?
The first, because of my age, and that goes by age, and I'm pretty sure it still goes by age. So I was 21, so I had to sign a 2-year contract to start. So it was 2 years, and then 1 year, and then 1 year because of the lockout. Everything got pushed back a year.
So I just got a text in regards to a question for you. And it's the question is, where does he see the NHL going in the coming years? More skill over size, or size will always be first?
It seems to be a copycat league, so I think
Yeah.
that I think you're going to see, especially if Vegas wins it, you're going to see a little bit more length. And but based on the rules in the regular season, that's the one thing I want to see them get straightened out is which rules are we playing? Is it, because I think that changes everything over the course of 80 games. Your speed and skill might outplay your size, but in a 7-game series, your size might outplay the skill. So to me, the league needs to figure that out first as to what they're going to call, because a lot of these penalties in the playoffs that they, the pucks over the boards, that's a whole different story. But the cross checks that they let go, and those types of situations. Even if you look last night, the penalty on Point, to me, is, I can't believe he got a penalty driving the net, and he's getting pushed in by the defenseman. Like, the league needs to decide which way to go before I think management can go. But I don't think size will ever be out of the game, and I don't think, if you're good enough, I don't think skill and speed will ever be out of the game.
We have a question here, a comment here. I'll just throw it up. But before we get to that, something we talked about on Monday night on the show here was exactly what you're talking about. We talked about the officiating in the regular season, in the regular season, it's more of a superstar league. And the show on Monday night was about the superstars are out of the playoffs. First you had Crosby, you had Ovechkin, McDavid, Matthews, and then McKinnon. So all the big guns are out, right?
How much time do we have? Because I've got a few different theories on that.
So let's get to, what do you think on that one?
Yeah. Well, quickly, before we get to the question, to me, it comes down to, are those superstars willing to play playoff hockey? You look at the Canadians beating the Leafs. To me, the Canadians were willing to play playoff hockey, and I know the new school in the analytics says not to play chip it out and in and all of that. But if you want to win in the playoffs, if you're going to make teams make mistakes and have to come 200 feet every single time, you're more likely to get more turnovers, catching the other team with turnovers and going on offense. And I think that's how Montreal beat the Leafs. I think the Leafs made too many turnovers. So I think that's for me playing playoff hockey. I know it's all the hockey cliches of what to do, but I played that way in playoffs, and I felt like that's one of the reasons why there's still areas that you can play offensive and skilled in the offensive zone. But when you're trying to make plays, and to me, I look at the 2 Sandin turnovers. I look at the Dermott, miscue. All they have to do is chip it up the wall. And in Sandin's case, he had a winger stationed at the blue line that was, no one from Montreal was near him. Then Thornton would have been able to follow through. So for me, that's a big thing for me, that I love puck possession. But you got to know when to cut your losses.
For sure. And you see it in the playoffs in terms of, like you said, the cliches, get the pucks in deep, chip and chase, forecheck, cycle, all that fun stuff we like to talk about. But my thing is that the frustration I have with the NHL is, to grow the sport. And I know that, one of my guests on Monday said the playoffs are not to grow the sport, the regular season is, right? But I sort of disagree with that, because to have those big guns in the playoffs, like I said on Monday, is somebody going to stay in on a beautiful Sunday afternoon at 3:00 to watch Tampa and New York? Probably not, unless you're a diehard hockey fan. But for me, it's the stick work, it's the cross checks to the ribs that are let go in the playoffs, but in the regular season, it's called. So, my frustration is the league has to get its act together, because what are they selling here? Are they selling, playoff hockey, or are they selling skilled hockey with grit as well? Right.
Absolutely. You talk about each one of those superstars.
Yeah.
The game is different. You got to alter it a little bit. Every play is meaningful.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree that the league needs to, when I say choose one or the other, those guys over 80 games are still going to outperform if they want to keep, this style. But can teams play 80 games with this much passion? I don't
Right.
think so.
Yeah.
You're gonna see way too many injuries. You're gonna see way too many, you know, and then the cross checks and things like that. That
Yeah.
for me, it's the hits from behind along the wall, and
Yeah.
when you don't want to get beat, and those
Yeah.
types of plays, and then the head hunting.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to get rid of those for longevity of some of these superstars, because that's gonna knock them down a few too.
For sure. So Frank has a question here. Do you believe a coach impacts a player decision, which road to take to lead to the NHL, or is it up to the player to decide?
Well, I think it's ultimately up to the family and the player to decide, but I think if you have a coach who cares about a player, they can help aid in guidance with those decisions. And then obviously some players, depending on the age, have family advisors. So I think that one of those avenues should be able to help you which way to go. And um, I'm not here to tell you which way to go. I
Yeah.
think that everybody's different. Everybody's got a path. Uh, and again, it is, when I say it's crucial, one of the reasons why I went to University of New Hampshire, they were losing, I think it was three out of the four top scorers. So for me to jump in and play right away, I knew that there may be that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And that was also back when guys redshirted, and going into university, I had fantastic, tier 2 numbers, but I don't think I was the blue chip prospect to be going in that year. So
we got another question for you. So who was the hardest player to play against in the AHL, in your AHL career? Who did you hate playing against? Tipu family.
well, I think they're for different reasons. I can say
Yeah.
some
Yeah.
goalie. I could say some goalies.
Yeah.
I think I don't even know where to go.
How about?
For me, I'll
Yeah.
break it down to this.
Yeah.
It wasn't the 6'6" defenseman. It was the 6-foot defenseman who could keep up with me on turning and shifting in the corners. Mike Weaver caught me pretty good one game. He's my height.
Yeah.
He's not. He's probably 20 pounds heavier, but he's my height, and he was sturdy. Those guys are the hardest to play against. Those guys, um, for being skilled and being shifty, to get around someone that's able to keep up with my speed and take away my time and space. Those were the types of players that I didn't want to play against. Just because, I less time for me. I wanted defensemen to try and come kill me because I knew I was able to evade the check, or if I got low enough, they would almost propel me, just as I think last night where Point got propelled into the net. So
Yeah. So Nashville, your time there, Milwaukee Calder Cup, Rookie of the Year. What happened at the end of that tenor there with Nashville?
well, I think we just decided to go our own ways. They were amazing about it. They they basically, we lost in the Calder Cup finals again that year, and I think I almost had 20 goals in playoffs that year. And I think Dave Poyle and Ray Shiro, the GMs at the time, thanked me for helping it, because I always wanted to be, whether I was to help my teammates out and to be a good guy in the locker room and make the environment fun. And I don't want to say I didn't have that as a rookie, but I wanted to be that guy to help develop other players. So I think they appreciated that and saw my character in the locker room, and so they thanked me for that. And then for me, we knew that I had more aspirations than just sticking around and being in Milwaukee. And I wanted an opportunity at the NHL level, and I don't think they were willing to guarantee me that.
So after that, where did you end up signing?
I signed with Atlanta. I had some options that year, but I signed with Atlanta, knowing that if I was in the American League, I would be in Chicago. And Chicago, the only way that they see success is if you win a Calder Cup. So for me, going into that and having that, added, I don't want to say added pressure, but having that expectation was something that I thrived on. I loved that. I loved that, the owner, he didn't have time for even first round draft picks that came in and were underperforming. Awesome man, but he would let you know if you weren't performing to either the team's expectations or his. So I signed with Atlanta, and that year I ended up in Chicago, and started off that year. I heard grumblings that I was a slow starter and all of that. So I started off that year pretty well for the first 39 games.
So Atlanta Thrashers. Now, I believe you played a couple of games there, Darren.
I played. That year I got called up. I believe I played. I think I played 4 games that year.
Yeah, because you were telling me about Kovalchuk a little bit back in the day there. He had an opportunity. He was on the team at the time, right? And is it John Anderson was the coach at the time too, Darren?
John Anderson was my coach in Chicago.
In Chicago, and then
okay. The coach in Atlanta was Bob Hartley.
Okay.
So going up there, he was a meat and potatoes kind of guy, and I don't want to. I got a little bit of an opportunity in my first game. I played fairly well, and just based on contract situation, I was sent down. When I say pretty quick that year, I was sent down pretty quick. I was hoping for more of an opportunity, but again, I went back down to Chicago. We had a really good team there, and we were going to make a pretty good push in the playoffs that year, and we did until my brother Jeff got married in May. So we were in the Calder Cup playoffs in the conference finals against Hamilton, and they had PK Subban and Carey Price that year, and I flew in the middle of that series to my brother's wedding in Martha's Vineyard, and then back for the series as well later on. So I missed about 3 days, and taking 3 days in the middle of playoffs off is not a good thing, especially when you're going to a wedding.
Yes, for sure. So what's amazing though when you talk about the experience you had in the AHL, Darren, is the guys you played with, and those guys there. Like no one would know that they actually played AHL. Carey Price, Weber, PK Subban, all these guys. You think they show up at training camp, they're 18 years old, they get drafted, and they're in the show. But for people that are watching, they did their time too. Maybe not a long time, but they were there. So you faced Carey Price and PK in the conference finals, right?
In the conference finals that year.
Yeah, and how did that go? How was that series?
Well, we chased Carey Price, I believe, from the net the first 2 games.
Yeah.
And I want to say we collapsed the first game, and they put, I want to say it was Freddie Kasivi in net, and he came in and played extremely well, and they ended up squeaking out in double overtime, I believe, in the first game. And I think we were up 4 or 5-1. I think it was 4-1 going into the third period. They came back and won, which was a little deflating for our team. But then the second game we came in, and again, I think we chased Carey Price from the net again. So obviously you could tell he was pretty good. Once he settled in that series, though, he was pretty good. And we ended up losing to them that year. They had, again, that year, Carey Price in net, and they had 4 solid defensemen.
So far in your AHL career, you've only had the one Calder Cup. Is that like until that year, or did you win? Yeah. So because you won with Chicago, because I got you with the Instagram post and the YouTube thumbnail with that beauty stash that you had. So
that was the following year.
Okay.
All right. That was the following year.
All right.
So that year and the reason for that stash, we were playing Rockford, and Rockford had on Rockford they had all the guys that were on the 2010 or 11 Stanley Cup champions for the Chicago Blackhawks.
Okay.
You know, they had Corey Crawford, Nick Jalmerson, Andrew Shaw, Chris Versteeg. Like their team, they had some pretty darn good players on that team as well. And we went down, I want to say we went down 3-1 or 3-2 in that series. And one of the guys on our team came in and shaved into a mustache and basically called on the boys to all do it. And we all did it. And from that moment, I think it brought our team together a little bit. It was a little bit of fun for the guys and brought our team together. And that was 2008. We won the Calder Cup again with that time with Chicago.
And what's interesting, Darren, when I look at Hockey DB with you, and I was trying to find different images of you over the last couple of days, and we went through a few of them the other day. I see the C on your chest a lot in a lot of those images, which is again, an accomplishment that I seen you with Grand Rapids. I believe you were a captain, right?
Yep, correct.
Chicago Wolves, Milwaukee. I'm not sure if you had a letter there.
I did at times. I think I did my last year. I think I was an assistant captain.
So, but that's a testament to you. You're still plugging away at the AHL level. You're putting up amazing numbers and for anybody that's watching or watches in the next couple of days, you got to check out Hockey DB and look at Darren's numbers. They're pretty phenomenal in terms of the numbers that he put up in the A. So you're winning your second Calder Cup. Again, over how many years was that? That was 6 years in the A? Darren, 7 years?
6 years. 6 years in the A. So it was 2002 to 2008 at that point.
Right. So you're rookie of the year, 2 Calders, right? And you're still chomping at the bit to get that regular shot in the NHL. So what comes to play in terms of, because I know you spent some time with Detroit and Colorado as well, correct?
Correct.
So for a hockey player, when does it come to mind where maybe you say to yourself, because you played overseas as well, like this is not going to work right now, right? Like it's going to be AHL and you have to make a decision. So I know that's probably the toughest decision you probably had to make as a pro.
Well, for me, when I look back at it that way, I was ready to go over to Europe a few years earlier than I did. But between Sarah and myself, so in 2008, my wife was diagnosed with throat cancer about 3 weeks before playoffs. So for me, health came into that decision that year. Us going over, would we have, health coverage and things like that? We would overseas, but when we came back, how would that work? And I think when I say the easy route for us was to sign back in Chicago and Atlanta, and which we did. And then in 2010, I was diagnosed with MS. So from that perspective, going overseas was just a little bit delayed. I love playing in the American Hockey League. I love the schedule. I love playing for the Chicago Wolves. But we had some health issues that we had to figure out our life and what was best for us. So I didn't really want to go overseas, and something happened with Sarah where she's on her own and I'm on the road and she doesn't know anybody, different languages. There's different things like that definitely came into play for us in our decision making when to go overseas and to stay in the American Hockey League.
So health issues come into play for your wife, for yourself. And, it's interesting that, you were diagnosed with MS in 2010 and you kept on playing, right? 2010, you said?
2010 was the first, I think it was 2011 I was diagnosed, but 2010 I had the first symptoms.
Okay. But you continue playing, right? You continue playing and you can continue playing until 2016. So overcoming that, that was definitely a challenge. Again, thank you for opening up and telling us that. I wasn't going to get into that, but that challenge of dealing with that as well your wife, and also too, you have a pro hockey career. So, like you said, decisions had to be made. So you signed with Chicago, and then how long were you there with Chicago until you moved on to playing in Europe?
So I was there for 5 years total. I signed with Atlanta, ended up in Chicago for the first original 2 years. Then I went to Grand Rapids, Detroit for the 1 year, Cleveland and Colorado for that next year, and then I signed back in Chicago for 2 years, and then a third year on top of that one. So that's, for us being in Chicago, close, that's where Sarah's family's from.
Mm-hmm.
For us, that was, to have her close to family was definitely huge for us. And being in the American Hockey League, playing for Chicago was obviously something that I was definitely interested in doing.
So you have a young hockey player, an 06 hockey player. I know you know who he is, Ethan Cabral. What drove you to keep playing?
Love being with the boys. Love being in the locker room. Thanks for the question, Ethan, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest with you, I still love the game. I played senior A for Dundas the last couple of years, and if health was a little different and I was able to commit more and keep my body in that shape that I would like to be in, I'd be lying if I said that I would love to still be playing right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
So you go over to Europe, and that experience playing overseas, how was that? Because again, I've talked to a few players that have played overseas, and a couple of my friends of mine that played in Germany or whatnot. Ventured out to the K. Didn't last too long in the K because they weren't really crazy about the optics there, and then head back to Germany again. So, what was your experience overseas?
well, I went through some of that as well.
Yeah.
Playing in that league, and then for me, my dream was always to play in the National Hockey League. So I think I would have felt this way no matter where I went. But we decided also to go to the DEL in Germany after I decided that we're going overseas. And you go over, and the first tournament we played a few KHL teams and we beat them, and we had a good start. So I don't think it hit me until after that oh no, my dream of playing in the National Hockey League is kind of out the window at that point, just because you're going overseas and you're choosing a different, when I say a different path, there are some players that go overseas and then do come back. But for me, I got over that pretty quick and enjoyed our time experiencing a different side of the world. And then that year, I was fortunate to do one of the things that I loved the most about my career was I got to play for Canada at the Spengler Cup in Davos, Switzerland.
Right.
That was one of the most enjoyable weeks of hockey. That it was like I was a kid again playing in a tournament.
Yeah.
And you play I think it was 4 or 5 games in 6 or 7 days, so you play a lot of hockey pretty quick in an environment like Davos, Switzerland, in an arena that's all wood on the inside.
Yeah.
And the history, I believe it's the longest serving hockey tournament in the history of the game. So the experience and the environment there was second to none. And then getting to put on the Canadian jersey was something that I absolutely wanted to do at some point in my career.
Yeah, you beat me to that, because again, for hockey fans out there, if they haven't watched the Spengler Cup, it's quite a tournament. And like Darren touched on, the arena is, I believe it's got like Darren said, it's got the wood all over, and I believe it has a big window too that it opens up to the scenery on the outside as well. I believe it's quite a tournament, and like you said, donning that maple leaf. Was Who did you play with in the Spengler? Who were some of the guys that were your teammates?
Glenn Metropolit,
Yeah.
Jason Williams, Joel Kwiatkowski, who was a teammate of mine. We were together in Chicago when we won the Calder Cup. Alex Giroux, Anthony Stewart. There's a few guys that played many years with Team Canada that were and played in Switzerland. A lot of the guys that were on that team play in Switzerland already. It's from an economic standpoint, it makes sense, and they're pretty good hockey players as well. So if you're playing in Switzerland, you're doing pretty well.
So you play in Europe a few years, and you decide to come back to Canada, back to Milton. And so for the viewers right now, what's Darren Haydar up to currently today?
Well, today I'm, as you know, I guess number one, my current job is selling real estate. I work for Remax Real Estate Center here in Milton, and that's my career now. That's what I've chosen, and I enjoy that. So if anybody's from Milton or Halton, or you know where to hit me up.
There you go.
And then what I do for passion, what I love to do, and what I've done for Nick's kids is I work with youth hockey players. I want to pass my experiences and knowledge down to them and try and help them in any way I can. And for me, there's certain things people think that goal scorers, it can't be taught, or there's certain areas absolutely you can help out players. And the one thing that I always talk with your kids, with all the kids that I'm on the ice with, don't be happy just getting shots on net. Like there is a train of thought, there is a process that goes to it when you pick up the puck, whether you're at the blue line or in tight. So for me, working with kids and trying to help them get better, and then seeing them actually get better is rewarding for myself. And that's, hey, if I can help someone get there, someone get a scholarship, someone get advance themselves one level up, then I've done my job, and I definitely feel I feel reward for doing so.
Right, and you talk about development of hockey players, and I've seen that with my boys and other players for sure that I've coached in Milton and been around the rink as well as you have. The perception is, and we have a few minutes here, but the perception is, Darren, always to go bar down. And and one of the things that if you ever skate with Darren, and again, I would suggest that for anybody, if your son or daughter needs to put the puck in the net a little more, reach out to Darren, because he can definitely fine tune that skill. The biggest thing, like, again, learning from Darren, is really picking your spots, and it doesn't have to be bar down.
Absolutely not. I think, I'm trying to tell the 7 and 8 year olds to stop, at some point at that young age, right? It looks cool going bar down. Would you rather score 50 goals, or would you rather score 1 or 2 nice ones? And I know my answer. And, I always had the nickname, equipment manager in University of New Hampshire gave me a nickname of Charlie Simmer, because I was always the garbage man. I cleaned up in front of the net, and, but it's going to the right areas. It's stopping in the right areas. It's not cheating the game. And then on top of that is, knowing the areas that you can score for right-handed players, for left-handed players. Are you getting a pass across the hash mark, across the crease, different things like that. That, to me, if you know where you're going before you get it, if you have a plan, you're going to have a better opportunity of scoring.
For sure. So Darren, again, thank you for coming on the lounge today. It's been a pleasure. If anybody has comments for Darren or whatnot, DM the Hockey Lounge. We'll definitely get them to him. Again, if you're in the real estate market, Darren, you want to pump your email or whatnot to get it out there for you, I'm fine with that. Go ahead, bud.
Awesome. Darren at ryanhaydar.com.
Yeah.
Send me an email. My hockey website, elite2020.com. Check me out. Haven't updated that in a long time, but just with COVID.
Yeah.
But send me an email. Look for me on Google. I can easily be found.
Awesome. So first-time Hall of Famer in the lounge. I'm privileged to have you on. Again, for all the viewers, stay safe, enjoy the playoffs, We will see you next week. NHL player Joseph Cramarosa will be on Wednesday night at 9 p.m. And have a great night.